Good afternoon, everyone. Please feel free to continue with your meal. We're going to go ahead and get started with the announcements at our meeting in the essence of time. And I would like to start by introducing all of our guests here today. We're grateful to have all of you here today, especially our guests. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to read out the names that I have. And I feel like there's some names that I don't have. So I'll request that if your name is not on the list, we'll still ask you to stand and be recognized. But when you stand, please continue to stand until we can recognize everybody at the end with applause. So first we have Clay Roundtree, a guest of Robin Brown. Next we have Francis Ackridge, a guest of Wayman Burke. We have J.W. Weatherly, a guest of Wayman Burke. Parker Griffith, a guest of Wayman Burke. Thank you, Wayman. Robert LaBranch, a guest of Travis Collins. Elizabeth McQueen, a guest of Michael Kirkpatrick. Frank Barger, a guest of Richard Purdue. Richie Wharton, a guest of Pat Sims. And then we have several guests that are here with our speaker today, Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth. We have Judy Miller, Cole Wagner, Joe Rice, Stacy DeFore, Stephanie Bastians, and we have Ray Jones Jr., a guest of Ray Jones. And also we have visiting Rotarians, Linda Flaherty from our Birmingham Club, and guest Rotarian, Dennis Nelson. And if there's any other guest here today who did not get on my guest list, please stand at this time and be recognized. Okay, maybe we got everyone, but we're so glad you are all here. Hope you can make it back someday. And for our Rotary Club, let's please give them a warm round of applause. Thank you all. You may be seated. Next thing I want to announce is our upcoming Strive program. For those that don't know, Strive is our flagship community service project for this club, where we mentor juniors and seniors at 4 local area high schools. And we use Rotary volunteers and non-Rotary volunteers to go into the schools and work within our program to mentor these wonderful young men and young women and help them get through high school and on into what lies beyond for them. So we are ready to start the program. We normally start in September, and we have a meeting with some of the Huntsville City Schools people tomorrow morning to just talk about more of what that looks like. We know there's still going to be challenges with getting into the schools physically, but at this point, we feel like things should continue to work out pretty well. So about a year and a half ago, we had 85 mentors working with 85 students at 4 schools. And right now we have a lot less than that signed up for our new school year. So I would just implore you, if this is something, if you can commit 2 lunch meetings a month from roughly September through May, it would make such an impact in these students' lives, and we would appreciate any support you can have. If you have an interest, please reach out to me or Debbie or Nikki, our Strive administrator, or Dana Gillis, our Strive liaison. So we have a lot of people with a lot of experience that can tell you a little bit about how much time is involved, what the meetings look like, and so on. But we've got the program pretty much automated, where it takes very little time on your behalf. We just need you to have some one-on-one time with those students once or twice a month. So if you have any more questions on that, please let me know. Also, our golf tournament, our annual Coates Barnes Memorial Golf Tournament will be held at Huntsville Country Club on Monday, October 18th. We met with the golf professional at the club yesterday, and we've begun working out all the details. And we would certainly love to have more help on that committee. So we had several from the committee there yesterday, but we certainly need more help. We've moved the start time up an hour earlier. So the lunch is now starting at about 11 o'clock, and then we'll have a noon shotgun start. But as you know, we're getting a little bit later into the year, and we're not going to go past the daylight savings time, but as we get later into the year, we wanted to have a little more afternoon time, finish the round of golf and all the post-tournament festivities. And this tournament also supports the Strive program that you just heard about. So, and it's our club signature project. Last year, we raised in excess of $18,000 at the golf tournament alone. So all of the information is in Debbie's regular weekly emails. We'd like to thank all of our sponsors, all of our whole sponsors, those that have signed up with teams already. And if you've played in this in the past, you know how much fun it is. So please make sure you get with Debbie and reserve your team spot. We do have a limit to the number of teams we can have. I found out yesterday there's only so many golf carts, so that's our limiting factor at the club. But we have room for 22 teams. So please reach out to Debbie as soon as you can and let her know if you'd like to play, volunteer, or sponsor. And then finally, let me remind you that we are posting all of our programs on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So just click on the link that's in our weekly bulletin to follow the Huntsville Rotary Club. And feel free to also post on your own social media accounts and tag the Huntsville Rotary Club. And if you haven't done so already, let me please ask you to silence your cell phone. And if you've joined us on Zoom, please make sure you're on mute so that we don't have any feedback for our speaker today. And with that, I'm going to let Mike Ward come to the front microphone and introduce our speaker today. Mike.
Thank you, President Grant. It's my pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth to the club today. Just to clarify the Lieutenant Governor's role, he presides over the Senate when they're in session. And of course, he is next in line to serve as governor should anything happen to the incumbent. Will felt the urge to the call to serve his community through elected office first in 2014 when he won a seat to the Alabama House of Representatives. While serving in the House, he was a champion for public education, pro-business measures, and was active on issues affecting agriculture and family values. Will declared his candidacy for Lieutenant Governor in 2018, and he received the most votes of any candidate for constitutional office on the general election ballot in that election cycle. As a Lieutenant Governor, Will has focused his efforts on a couple of critical issues for our community, strengthening Alabama's military presence by making the state known as the most military-friendly state in the nation, and then his support for aerospace industry by improving our workforce development so that Alabamians may have good jobs now and in the future. Will serves as the chairman of the Alabama Military Stability Commission, which works to, again, ensure that Alabama remains the most military and veteran-friendly state in the country. Will receive the Pete Taylor Award from the U.S. Department of Defense for his work on behalf of military members and their families. He was elected to serve as the national chairman of the Aerospace States Association, which brings together aviation and aerospace interests from across the nation in order to provide networking opportunities and grow jobs and expand economic development. Will is committed to providing quality public education to Alabama school children and is a strong supporter of the state's nationally recognized first-class pre-K program. He serves as the chairman of Alabama Small Business Commission, and through work with the national business leaders, Will promotes policies that allow both new and existing businesses, ranging from small and mom and pop shops to Alabama's largest employers, to grow and expand. He's the husband to Kendall and the father to twins Hunter and Hayes and daughter Addie, and he is a farmer and owns several small businesses in Marshall County. He co-founded Dream Ranch and the Tennessee Valley Hunting and Fishing Expo. He currently owns Ainsworth Real Estate, Ainsworth Homes, which specializes in residential real estate construction and development. He also owns commercial Hereford and purebred Brahmin. Okay, sorry, cattle operation in Gunnersville. Prior to entering public service, he worked as a youth pastor at Albertville's Grace Fellowship Church. Please help me welcome Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth.
All right, good afternoon. Great to be with y'all. Good to be in Huntsville. Mike, appreciate the invite. Great to be with y'all. I want to say this first before we get started. Let's give Mayor Battle a huge round of applause for what he does in Huntsville. As a state leader and somebody that's from North Alabama, I'm proud of the job he's doing. I'm proud of everybody in this room that's working hard for Huntsville and North Alabama. Mayor, you do a great job. You're a good friend. Look forward to working with you in the future. You know, Alabama's doing well. Huntsville's doing well. When you look at Huntsville, top 3 in the nation. Gunnersville, my hometown, people moving from all over the country into Gunnersville because of what's going on in North Alabama. When you look at the economy right now, our budgets are at all-time high. Our ETF budget, think about this, will be $8.5 billion this next year. That's almost an $800 million increase, which is unheard of in Alabama. The general fund is going to have close to a $300 million increase. Why is that? It's because the policies that a lot of people in here have put in place over the years, you know, are making a huge impact. And people are realizing that Alabama's open for business. They're realizing our educational system, despite some challenges, is working. And, you know, the model here in Huntsville and throughout other cities is working. And so I'm encouraged. It's a great time to be in government. People ask me all the time, how do you like to serve? I'm like, right now it's great. Things are going well. We're going to continue to work hard to make sure they're going well. I want to say this, despite a pandemic, and one of the things I always talk about when I'm on the campaign trail is vaccines work. I got the vaccine. You know, I had COVID, but, you know, despite having it, still got a vaccine. And I want to let you know it's working, and proud of the fact that we were at the bottom, but now we've jumped over 7 or 8 states. And we've had 51% of our people in the state, because of education, letting people know what's going on, that received their first shot. We're going to continue to push that and let people know, you know, based on facts, that this is working. You look at the data in the hospitals, around 80 to 90% of the patients in a hospital are unvaccinated people. So the data is clear that vaccinations are working. So did come here today to talk about that, but I also want to make sure everybody knows that they work. I'm young, I'm healthy, but chose to get it, as did my wife. And when my kids get of age, they're 11, my daughter's 9, we'll certainly get them. I think the best way to lead on that is by example. And so that's what we're doing. We'll have a few special sessions coming up, and wanted to talk first about kind of, you know, how the state's doing, talk about some of the issues that we're going to face, and also some of the stuff we've worked on in the last year. And certainly want to open it up for questions and hear your thoughts and ideas on how we can improve the state. We'll probably have 2 special sessions. First is going to be on prison situation. Y'all have certainly heard about that for the last few years. When I was in the House, got elected in 2014. You know, we almost solved that problem with Governor Bentley. Then a crisis developed with his personal life, which totally disrupted that. So we're back. We're going to solve it. I think there is a comprehensive plan now that's agreed upon, bipartisan. It's going to take $150 million of the general fund money that fortunately we'll just pay for because of the growth there. $400 million of the federal money coming in from some of the stimulus money we've got, and then we'll bond the rest. And one of the things that I've been a believer in, a little difference on this than the governor on her initial plan, but now we're on the same page, is I believe that when you're looking at that type of investments, I always thought we should own the prisons. And the reason why, same business philosophy I had, if you're going to pay for something over 30 years, I'd like to own the asset at the end of that time. And so I'm glad that we're actually going to bond it and own the prisons. I think it's the right thing to do for our state. And I think we'll solve this problem by doing that. It's also going to include some renovations. And I think when you look at the pardons and parole situation in our state, Cam Ward is in charge of that now, doing a good job, and he's going to get that straightened out. And with that, I think you'll see our prison situation solved in Alabama. And that's something that's been a problem for a long time, but something we're certainly going to solve. The next thing that, you know, certainly Huntsville played a huge part in. North Alabama was, you heard for so long, oh, we're going to lose a congressional seat, right? I mean, I could, it was never, you know, maybe we'll keep it. It was a conversation of who's going to get cut, right? And so fortunately, we had 5% growth in Alabama, right? This part of the state that I'm from and proud of was a big part of that growth. And so with that now, we kept our congressional seat, but we will have a special session on redistricting. And so certainly with growth comes, new members. And so I think y'all are going to look at that, potentially, new members maybe in the Senate as well as the House, redrawing lines. As he mentioned, some of the, duties I have, also appoint everyone in the Senate to the redistricting the committee. That's a huge thing. Senator Jim McClendon, very wise guy, actually retiring from the Senate after this term from St. Clair County, been involved in redistricting, but he'll handle that and got full confidence that he'll do a great job there. Other thing that is from an education standpoint, money we've got coming into our state, we've got around $4 billion that's going to be spent in education over the next before 2024 that has to be spent. $3 billion in K through 12, and then $1 billion in higher education. So make sure if you're involved in education, you pay attention to that. Great opportunity to make a huge impact. Aerospace, right? I mean, I'm proud to serve as the national chair of the Aerospace States Association. When they initially asked me to do that, I grew up in the railroad industry. Dad built a business called Progress Rail, railroad supply and service company, largest company like that in the country, built locomotives. Always thought I'd go into that business. Got my degree from marketing, been in a lot of different small businesses. So when they initially asked me, Will, I want you to be national chair of the Aerospace States Association, Mayor, I told them, I think you got the wrong guy. I don't know a lot about aerospace. They said, no, Alabama is the capital of the world for that. We want you to help go sell us. I'm glad to do it. And so I've been drinking from a fire hydrant on that. And wow, what an industry. And when you look at the impact that's going to have on not only the country, but the world, what Huntsville's doing in North Alabama, it's impressive. I was in a meeting with the CEO and talking with them about one of the top aerospace companies. And he said, Will, when you look at just if another country wanted to attack America and take out our assets in space, our satellites, our GPS, and what that would do to our day-to-day life, and the fact that aerospace and defense are going to play a huge role in defending those assets in space. Space Command is going to obviously be a big part of that. And what that would do to our day-to-day life, well, guess what? Huntsville is going to be the city that is doing that. And the amount of federal money coming in, the amount from aerospace and defense side is going to be huge. And it's an easy sell. I want to tell you this. When we go out talking about industries coming here, and we have CEOs that are already located here, and they have businesses in multi-states, like, Will, anytime you need a CEO, need me or somebody else to advocate for Alabama, Mike, it's a good thing. This is a good testament to what we're doing here. He said, let me know. I would gladly, call somebody. So that's great for Huntsville. It's great for Alabama. Just kind of a few stats: 60,000 jobs, 350 Alabama companies, $2.5 billion in aerospace exports annually, $11+ billion in Department of Defense contracts. Space Command, the impact that's going to have over the next 100 years is huge. NASA's federal budget released a few weeks ago, $24.8 billion. When you look at that and the industries here that are around that, we know it's going to be stability and it's going to be for the long term. 3 members I brought today from Lockheed Martin. I'd like to stand real quick. Joe Rice, Stacy DeFore, Stephanie Bastion. If y'all can just stand. I want to give them a round of applause and explain why, if y'all could do that for what they're doing. Here's why I want to give them a round of applause. They came to us and said, Will, we need to start a aerospace internship program. We need to start a program in Alabama that encourages companies in different counties to get involved, understand how they can become suppliers. Because my goal is for every supplier, for the companies, to be in Alabama, not in other states. And so we want to educate the companies here about how they can become suppliers for companies like Lockheed. So with their help and a lot of other groups, we had ULA, the National Space Club, the Huntsville-Madison Chamber of Commerce, and we had a lot of great people help. But because of that, we were able to start the first ever, through our office, internship program with an emphasis on aerospace. And to see those kids get excited about the future here was, it was great. I got to talk to all of them and, hearing what they wanted to do. Some of them were at UAH, some of them were high school students, but it's, there's a lot of bright students that are excited about STEM and what they can do here. So thank y'all for what you did on that. Also a program we're working on, it's called, basically Strengthen Alabama's Critical Infrastructure Resiliency Program. And Cole Wagner in our office is working on this, and he kind of handles special projects. They came to us, and this is a public-private partnership we're doing through our office and Lockheed Martin, but it's going to have a huge impact. One of the biggest risks when you look at aerospace and defense is cybersecurity attacks. Proud of what UAH is doing in that arena, but we're working on a project through the state that's going to try to make sure we have a competitive advantage in Alabama on cybersecurity, and working with them this year, and look forward to rolling out that. We're just in the early stages of that, but proud of that program. The other thing too, I'll say is this: I like to win. So I love, as national chair, get to compete against Florida, get to compete against Colorado. I know y'all have emphasis in both, but we want Alabama, to win. But it's great, and it's an easy sell in Alabama. So we got to keep it up, continuing to work together. Governor Ivey asked me when we got elected, one of the first things she did is, traditionally the Small Business Commission has been under the governor's office. And she said, Will, you've been in small business your whole life. I'd like for you to chair this and take this. So we've taken it and ran with it. First thing they asked us to do was during COVID, over a year and a half ago, was put together a plan to reopen the economy. And I said, okay, tough task. Fortunately, we had over 200 different business associations, trade groups, chambers that stepped up to the plate. And through that, we were able to get the economy back reopened safely, which is important. When you look at us compared to other states, I talked to my colleagues, there's states that instead of having surpluses in their budget, because companies figured out a way to innovate and get people safely to work, they have huge deficits. So Alabama is fortunate, and I was honored to lead that. One of the things we're working on now, that we're going to have a package of bills next session, is what can we do to help small businesses? We believe small businesses took one of the greatest hits during the pandemic. And so things such as the business privilege tax, we're looking at potentially eliminating that to give businesses more of a break. We're going to have a hotline. One of the things we've heard during the pandemic, people do not understand, how they can reach out to get help, how they can reach out to find out about, federal funds. So we'll establish a hotline through the Department of Commerce. Workforce development is one of my passions, and something we've worked hard on in kind of 3 different areas. I want to tell y'all that we were able to get funding in the budget last year. And here's why workforce matters. The number one thing I hear from business owners, doesn't matter where I go, is the number one limiting factor to growth is people. But Will, if you can help me get more people trained, we can grow our business. We've got 55,000 students a year that graduate from high school. That's our future. That's who I believe in. But here's part of the problem. When I was at Boaz in 1996 as a freshman, they asked, Will, how are you doing in your ACT and where are you going to college? That worked out well for me. Went to Auburn, got my degree in marketing, ended up going into business. But for 60 to 70% of the students in this state that end up not going and graduate from a 2 or 4 year institution, we've got to do a better job of getting them ready for a 21st century job. And that's part of what we're doing through our workforce development initiative. 3 things. First, a career coach. We put $8 million into career coaches. Before this, it was close to 1 to 1,000 ratio, where one career coach was with 1,000 students. We cut that in half. We're going to continue to cut that in half. Here's why career coaches matter. When we talked to, when I was running for the House, I talked to kindergarten teachers about pre-K, which I'm really proud of what we're doing here. My wife was a pre-K teacher. And I said to these kindergarten teachers, I said, what can I do to help y'all be successful? Over and over again, these kindergarten teachers said, Will, we need pre-K, which kind of surprised me. So you hear all kinds of different things. Maybe we need more, materials in the classroom, more supplies, one-to-one initiative. But kindergarten teachers said we need pre-K. I asked the question, why? They said parents aren't doing their job anymore. We literally have kids coming into kindergarten that have never been read to. They don't understand ABC. This was in Guntersville, okay? That has pretty good top 15 school system. Well, think about those kids now, fast forward to when they're in middle school and high school, have the same parent situation. That's why career coaches matter. Unfortunately, they don't understand about the jobs out there. They don't understand about the skill set needed, the jobs, that are out there, how you get there, the fact that there's, dual enrollment classes. So career coaches play a huge path in that. We put $15 million into K through 12 for CTE. Some high schools, they're not doing any career technical training. Some are doing some, but it had to go to equipment and making sure we got them trained. $25 million for community colleges. And I'll say this, our community colleges are doing a good job. The community colleges here are doing a great job. But the reality is they need more money to update equipment. Some of this equipment in some of these facilities were, honestly 20, 30 years old, some of older than that. And so when you look at technology and how much is changing, we had to update that. One of the proudest things that, that I guess we've worked on, hands down, is I'm chair of the Military Stability Commission and Foundation in Alabama. When you look at that, Governor Ivey did that initially back when she got elected as lieutenant governor. And when you look at that, we're Alabama's voice for military families in the state. So last year we had a package of 10 bills that we passed, and proud to say it had bipartisan support. Robert LaBranch serves as our foundation chair, does a tremendous job, works hard on that. Jess Skaggs in my office that isn't here, he's our deputy chief of staff, works very hard on all these issues. But here's why it matters. When you looked at Maxwell, based in Montgomery, all right, it was fourth from the bottom in the rankings that came out. And some of this dealt with education, license reciprocity, all kind of different things, crime, right? And so we started fixing, these problems. A little bit frustrated, and the rankings came out, and the changes we passed didn't get credited. So it's probably going to be 2023 before we see the rankings move. But here's what I can tell you: it's going to make the rankings of all our bases go up in the state. Things such as license reciprocity, meaning when a military family member moves here, their spouse can get a job in what they're trained in as long as it's equal or better training. Things such as my kids play sports, right? Huge issue. Military families moved here. Their kids transferred school to go to another public school, and they couldn't even play sports. We worked at the Alabama High School Athletic Association, which turned out to be harder than actually passing a piece of legislation. But we got that done to where when they move, a military family wants to, and I mean, I get it, right? Their kids had to sit out a year because it was considered a transfer. We got that fixed. Also, if a military family member's here and their students, let's just say they're going to UAH and they get assigned somewhere else, they get to keep in-state tuition. Those are some of the things we work on. But here's why it matters. The military looks at all those items, and that's how they grade us as a state. And we want to make sure when there's another base realignment that we're well positioned and that we are the most veteran and military friendly state in the country. Like I said, there was 10 bills. I could go on and on about that. But I want to leave time for questions. So with that, one other person I didn't get to mention, Judy Miller is the first female chief of staff in the lieutenant governor's office. She is a rock star. She has more. She served, let's give her, yeah. She makes me look great. She works hard for the people of Alabama. She's a servant, and she has more institutional knowledge. If you want to know how to get something done, whether it's in DC or Alabama, I mean, she's amazing. And so very fortunate to have you on my staff, Judy. Thanks for all you do. But with that, I'll say this. People ask all the time, why'd you get into politics? I wasn't involved in SGA at Auburn. It was something I never thought I wanted to be involved in politics. But I think this, you got one life to make a difference. You better make a difference while you're here. My heart's in Alabama. I have no desire to go to DC. I'm going to run for re-election for lieutenant governor, and then would love one day to, potentially be governor. Who knows what's in the cards? But I want to say this, my heart's here, and I believe in Alabama, and I've got a passion for education. I got a passion for helping our business succeed. My kids go to public schools, and I want to continue to improve on all the great things we have going. And so honored to be lieutenant governor, and anything I can do to help y'all certainly will do. And I would love to hear and take some questions from you. So thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Our first question comes from one of our Zoom participants. Buddy Little says, Governor Ainsworth, Lieutenant Governor Ainsworth, the Alabama Department of Corrections records show that parole is being granted to only 9% of inmates who were given a hearing to consider parole. Years ago, that figure was more than 50%. It is being reported that the Bureau of Pardons and Paroles looks no further than the circumstances of the crime, even if the inmate has served more than 30 years for a crime committed when he or she was a teenager and has a flawless record in prison, completely rehabilitated, educated, and certified in a trade. Do you believe that factors having a major impact on overcrowding and the violence in our prisons? And do you believe that the parole board should be required through legislation to be more transparent in what they consider when deciding who is paroled and who is not? Thank you. That was from Judge Little.
Yeah, Judge Little, I see you online. Thank you for the question. I'll say this. I think Cam Ward is doing a good job, and that's a tough issue. He just took over as part of the paroles. And honestly, we had a mess there, and he's undoing a lot of that and trying to solve it. As far as, but I'll say this, you also got to be careful. In Guntersville, we live in a safe community. One of the only murders we have was from somebody that got let out. And the guy went straight to somebody's house, ended up killing, it was horrific, somebody and 2 kids, right? And it was in, right there in downtown Guntersville, and one of the safest neighborhoods. So I think, to me, do I think we need to pass legislation for that? I do not. I think the system we have set up is a good system. I think they need to do a better job of making sure they properly vet people. We've got a parole board that's set up. They meet with these people. They look at the facts. But I think you got to be careful about just letting people out. I'd say this. I've talked to General Marshall about this. And if you look at the data, most of the people that are in there for violent crime. And so, you got to really dial into each situation, which they do. But I will say this, Director Ward is doing a good job, and, they're making a thorough review of all that. And I certainly think, our state will do a better job. If somebody is rehabilitated, can be a productive member of society, and we got them trained, then certainly, I believe people have second chances. But I also think you got to be careful that if they don't go out and start being repeat offenders on violent crime. So thank you for the question.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Appreciate all the plans that you indicated. Extensive and your compliments to the administration that just provided. All the other plans that are good for business, and good for people here, because we're making business. My question to you, sir, is whether you can support an extension of Medicaid to all of those people in this state. They fully paid for by the federal government, and would allow people who cannot not otherwise afford it, but we can, they can, and medical attention to people who are poor. You support that?
Yeah. Do you want me to repeat the question or not? Okay, yeah. So the question is about Medicaid expansion, and would I support Medicaid expansion? I think that comes down to, can Alabama afford to do that? So you're correct, and initially federal government pays that, but then they wean you off of that, and the state has to pay it. And so I think the question is, would the state be able to afford that? And is that something that would be a smart fiscal policy, for Alabama? Traditionally, I've always been, I didn't think we could afford it. I'm certainly open to any plan and review anything anybody's got on that issue. And if it made sense from a fiscal standpoint and we could afford it, and certainly give people that needed healthcare, I'm open to. But also, to me, the hang up on that's always been, what do you do when the federal money runs out and then the state has to pick up the tab? Can we afford it? Obviously, right now we're doing good from a budget standpoint. But our general fund historically has been strapped, and it's been a tough thing. And with the prison situation, and other, courts obviously have tremendous needs, as some of the judges know. But it's certainly something I would look at if somebody had a plan on that. Dealing with that. The question with me, though, that I've never seen a plan that dealt with how you pay for it as a state after the federal money runs out. Yes, ma'am.
It affects our police department right here in our city. First responders see socioeconomic fallout from three meetings just the last week, and it is costly because people don't have access. A woman right here who is in charge of pride is talking back up the fact that mental health rates, psychosis, peaks from 18 to 22, and those cost us. So there's a dotted line connection to the costs. Please ask me to bring to a bubble that says we can't continue to pay for it. Ask them to show how we
Thank you for that. And for our Zoom listeners, there wasn't really a question, but just a response that it's costing us already in the lives of our young children, those particularly from 18 to 22. And so she simply asked that if somebody says we can't afford to pay for it, how can we not afford to pay for it? So thank you for your comment.
Yeah, thank you.
We have time for a couple more questions. Anyone?
Okay, well, I have the opportunity, so I'm gonna go ahead and stand up. Mary Elizabeth Mark from Thrive, Alabama, and I've met with you in your office. It's not only you're saying that the plans don't help to pay for it, but it brings in jobs. It also, we cannot afford for our rural hospitals to go under. And really, healthcare should not be a privilege, it should be a right. Because if you're ill, you cannot work, you cannot pay your taxes. You don't bring in money to our communities. But not only that, it is a humanitarian. We look around the country and we are one of the only states that has not expanded that.
The entire region is growing and prospering. You and I both live in Guntersville. Guntersville is connecting more and more into Huntsville as a recreational community associated with Huntsville. Would you just give everyone a little update of the good things going on in Guntersville?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. So I'll say this, as far as Guntersville, we've been, as Huntsville goes, so does Marshall County, to be honest. And so when you look at just the harbor development going on, multi-million-dollar development right there, it's exciting, but also people moving into Marshall County. I mean, it's encouraging. And I want to say this too, just about this. I want y'all to understand this as a leader. I'm going to fight. I believe it's a business principle, but also a principle in government. Healthy things grow. I think Huntsville is growing, and I want y'all to know North Alabama is growing. I'm going to make sure and advocate for North Alabama that we have the money to stay ahead of the growth, right? And I know historically, a lot of times, North Alabama has sometimes been left out of the mix on that. I want you to know that you're going to have an advocate, somebody that's going to fight to make sure we stay ahead of the infrastructure curve, because it's not good enough just to stay where, this area is booming and going to continue to do that. And the mayor's got a tough job staying ahead of the growth and the county here and what's going on in the neighboring counties. And so when you look at it, we've got to make more strategic and better investments in areas of our state that are growing to stay ahead of it so we continue that growth. But certainly Marshall County is one of them. And Michael and I are friends, lived in Guntersville, one of the prettiest places, but it's amazing the growth that's going on in Marshall County. So thank you for the question.
Lieutenant Governor, I have another question from one of our Zoom participants. Will you support a freedom from coercion bill that keeps people from being forced to get the vaccination shot, and also that would keep companies from requiring shots to work?
Yeah, so I think right now on any of those issues, it's best for, and this is the position I've had, for government to stay out of that. And I think when government starts getting involved in businesses, it's a dangerous precedent on this or any other issue. And so I think it's, businesses can decide what's best. Each local government can decide what's best. Individuals can decide, but I think from a state standpoint, saying, hey, we're going to do this or we're going to stop people from doing this, I'm not getting involved in that. So
we have time for one more question from the floor. Okay.
All right.
I think you covered it.
Absolutely. All. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great to be with you all.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Ainsworth, for speaking to our club today. I especially enjoyed hearing about the career coaches and the workforce development. That's something that fits right into our Strive program. So we're grateful to have you on our side there. In honor of your presentation, we will make a donation to our local foundation, which supports Strive, which is our club's signature project, which is a mentoring program and scholarship program for inner city youth at Huntsville High, Lee High, Jemison High, and Columbia High schools. So thank you again. Our upcoming programs next week on September 21st, we have Louise Blaze, our Canadian ambassador. And on September 28th, we have Frank Barger, our probate judge. So we look forward to both of those. And on your tables, and for those on Zoom, we have our Change a Life buckets or a QR code that you can scan into your smartphone. You can drop your bills or change into the buckets or make a equivalent donation through the Venmo app using the QR code. And that supports the Pediatric Cancer Hospital in Guatemala City, which is this club's international project. And once again, we are grateful for all of the guests. We had a big crowd today, and we're so glad all of you were here. We hope you'll all come back, and we'd like to meet you more after the meeting. And so now, if you will please stand and join me as we recite the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do as Rotarians. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here. Hey, Mark.
I'm gonna tell you, you just did a fine job.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
really like your comments.
Well, thank you.
You did a great job. Thank you for sharing. You
Absolutely.
didn't have to, but I appreciate it. So,
Yeah.
and everybody
I know.
at our table did too.
Well, good. Well, I think everybody likes hearing good stories. We've been sharing that story for 20 years within our office. We vowed to never forget, and so we'll keep doing it.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, my friend.
Pleasure watching you work, man. I appreciate it. I really do. Good job on the board meeting. Good job with this.
Yes.
How you feeling? Good.
Oh, I feel good. Yeah. Wouldn't know anything was wrong.
Good.
My doctor didn't tell me otherwise. So,
You be rocking right along.
yeah. So.
Are you having a change of with your life?
I'm not. Hey, Judge.
I've been hearing. I'm all right.
How are you?
I'm good. I'll get out of your way. I've missed your call twice.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with you, and I'm trying to stay away from that microphone so we don't get picked up.
Oh.
I know earlier this summer we had to go through and so there was a lot of discussion. We were looking at these sections about change to the rules. Yeah, we had
You did a good job.
thank you, Ray. Appreciate it.
See you, Judge.
Yes, that story you told, very moving. It's,
Don't put him in jail.
all right.
But I wanted to follow up. You had been one of several objections, and we discussed it at the past president's meeting. And I just wanted to chat with you. I felt like at the past president's meeting we kind of worked out the why and so forth. But I wanted to have a chance to talk with you about it. And that's why I called.
Well, it's done. And there's no undoing anything. But I think we need to be very careful.
we all agree. And it was good that, it was good for me as the incoming president to hear all that. from so many people, including yourself. It wasn't big blanket at all.
I thank you for reaching out.
Yeah, but that's all it was.
Okay. So, but thank you for sharing that story.
His name was Rick Restore, RESC. And I saw him on some of the shows that were running over there.
Did you watch the 60-minute hour presentation?
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
I never, out for the day I die, I'll be watching that.
I didn't know you would work there.
Yeah. It was something time of my life. 29 years old. And working in New York City up there.
Yeah, I know. I lived in New Jersey for a year.
Yeah. Thanks for stopping by, Judge.